Good evening, members of the United States Army Training Command and Health Command. My name is Staff Sergeant Clark. I'm a United States Army recruiter. Initially, I was an infantryman when I first joined the Army, but currently on recruiting duty. I have 8 years of service, currently stationed in Southern California. Today, I'd like to talk to you all about changing the Army Physical Fitness Test, or APFT. The current Army Physical Fitness Test was first implemented in 1980. The three events consist of push-ups, sit-ups, and a 2-mile run, and since 1980, these three events haven't changed. Standards for height and weight and male and female have changed, but these events haven't changed. And I say, if the purpose of the APFT is to measure the upper and lower body muscular endurance of the United States soldier, then it should be noted that the foundation of the Army's physical fitness begins and ends with the test that soldiers have to take at the very least 2 times a year, and they also have to pass this test if they ever want to go to any sort of leadership schools or any other sort of training that is specialized. The APFT should be designed to measure the soldier's endurance in a way that can properly calculate the effectiveness of the soldier while maintaining a level of reduced injury, of course. Throughout the decades, the APFT has failed to complete this task, and it's time for it to be changed. Data collected over the last 3 decades shows a rising increase of physical fitness injury. In 2011 alone, physical training, or PT, was the overall leading cause of injuries within the United States Army. If what the Army is basing its soldiers' strength and endurance on is the APFT, then the test needs to be geared to an injury-reduced motive. The fact that the test has not been changed since the 80s and injury has only increased in the APFT speaks volumes. On the left hand side, related research, and then on the right hand side, you have the injury chart of 2011. You can see since 96, there has been a rise of injuries. The United States Army has made steps in the past to refine its physical training program and the APFT itself, so credit where credit's due. Most recently, the implementation of the Occupational Physical Assessment Test, or OPAT, has seen its way to recruiting command and training command. The OPAT isn't an APFT though. The OPAT only helps to monitor individuals who are joining the Army to ensure that they are ready for the job they have chosen. It doesn't really go into their strength or muscular endurance. So my question is, why stop there? If you're going to implement a test that makes sure civilians who are going to be soldiers are at the bare minimum ready to at least step to basic training and then job training for the specific military occupation that they have chosen, then why haven't we implemented a test to keep that readiness there and consistent throughout that individual's career and the other soldiers that have been in the United States Army for so many years? So straight from the Go Army website, to improve one's levels of fitness in preparation for basic training, you should focus on the following components of physical fitness. That's cardiorespiratory endurance, or CR, muscular strength and endurance, flexibility, and body composition. But I say that preparedness doesn't end there. It doesn't end when you arrive or even complete basic training. A soldier must be able to maintain those elements of physical fitness throughout their career. Thus, they must be tested in each of those elements. Push-ups, sit-ups, and 2-mile run do not cover all those factors. The Army Strength, Mobility, and Endurance model from PRT, or physical readiness training, the model itself is a very good model and helps to explain the proper way to develop the new APFT, even though it wasn't designed that. But if you take what it's saying, strength, mobility, endurance, and you can see where they all intertwine, it's easy to just look at the current APFT and realize that push-ups, sit-ups, and the 2-mile run, yeah, they may be part of strength, mobility, and endurance, but they are on the far outside of the circle. What needs to happen is they need to be closer into the circle where everything takes place and touches each other. So, performing movements with correct posture and precision improves physical readiness while controlling injuries. And that's straight from FM 7-22, physical readiness training. Implementation of the new APFT is no different than any other change made within the United States Army. There are phases to be addressed with thorough process and focus. I would like to note that the implementation of the new APFT is not to replace the Army's Physical Readiness Training, or PRT program. On the contrary, the PRT program holds the methods on which the inclusion of the APFT should be conducted. The 3 phases of the PRT system is the basis guideline for which the APFT should be developed and implemented, starting at the level of the future soldier, and you can see at the bottom of the chart, and then working all the way to the initial unit, which is the top right-hand corner of the chart, after basic training, of course. This is basically the crawl, walk, run style of the Army, and implementing it like this allows you to work out any bad habits or kinks that soldiers and units and leadership are naturally going to run into, because every time there's a change, you have to get used to that change, of course. And I think implementation within their units in accordance with a no later than date will really assist in helping the commanders of these different units dictate when they're going to give the new APFT, how they're going to administer it. That's all part of the process. So monitoring the newly implemented APFT is twofold. You have to monitor data, both quantitative and qualitative, and the conclusion can be gathered once that data is collected and reviewed. And this process, in my opinion, is going to take possibly a year to, I would even say 3 years. The quantitative data collecting will take time and should begin in the process of the initial stages of developing the new APFT. So data of civilian and soldier test subjects should begin during trial and pilot programs of the new PFT. You got to figure out what works, what exactly works for a civilian, what works for a soldier, where's the bridge, and do these new exercises and the way we conduct them, do they actually reduce injury in the future? And this is where it should end. I think this data collecting ends all the way up until like maybe the first year after it's implemented. And then collecting qualitative data should begin roughly around the same time with the individual test subjects, civilians and soldiers. And it should be done with surveys. And surveys are emailed out all the time. Hey, how do you think about this? Or what is your opinion about this? And soldiers love filling out those surveys anyway. So, you know, have it modeled to the new APFT, its events, its overall comparison to the old APFT. These are the 2 areas of data that will help paint a picture for the effectiveness in promoting a healthy, injury-reduced Army. So one of my favorite quotes of all time is, "To improve is to change. To be perfect is to change often," and that was Winston Churchill. And you know, taking in that quote in regards to the APFT for the United States Army hasn't changed the last 30 years. So that's not change, of course. Anybody can see that. And where this falls short is in the fact that technology has increased in military weapons, armor, and equipment. And as that increases, the level of physical readiness has been left behind. And what I mean by that is what was standard in the 80s for a soldier in the United States Army to carry in equipment and armor and weapons, it's not the standard anymore. It's below the standard now. So if the APFT is being the ground zero of determining a soldier's strength and endurance, it must evolve to meet the requirements soldiers face in today's Army. So that concludes my presentation on why I think it's time to look into a new APFT. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now.